Not too long ago, medical students were taught that genetics rule everything, from hair and eye color to family history of cancer, diabetes, heart disease, obesity, and even premature aging. But researchers have learned that predestination isn't set in stone.
What we now know is that our genetic destiny is dynamic and it can be influenced for good or for harm by the foods or the toxins that we're putting in our body throughout our life.
That's Dr. Mitchell Gaynor, Assistant Clinical Professor of Medicine at the Weill Cornell Medical Center and author of the Gene Therapy Plan, taking control of your genetic destiny with diet and lifestyle.
Your DNA structure is really quite dynamic and it interacts with the environment in a host of ways. And it also interacts with environmental toxins in a host of ways. So there are basically two new areas of science that I discuss in the book. One is called toxicogenomics, and that is how various environmental toxins, pesticide residues, herbicide residues, dioxin, heavy metals, even white sugar and white flour, the refined foods, heat-damaged oils, literally can turn on and off DNA that can lead to promotion of heart disease, inflammation, and even cancer. Everybody pretty much is walking around with dormant cancer in their body.
How do we know that? Researchers have found dormant cancer cells during autopsies of people in their 20s, such as soldiers and young car accident victims.
We've been living in a country where 1 in 3 people were going to hear the words, "You have cancer." By 2020, that's going to 1 in 2, or 50% of the population at some point in their life is going to develop some form of active cancer. If you have dormant cancer cells in your body, you want to be putting things in your body that are going to keep those cells dormant. There are literally thousands of genes that will affect your risk of diabetes, heart disease, cancer, and premature aging that are under our control.
While that's encouraging news, it means making difficult choices, like no more dining on fast food or highly processed foods.
What's happened to our fast food, processed food culture with so much white sugar going in, so much white flour going in, which raises insulin-like growth factor. That's one of the strongest tumor promoters known to man. Every time your pancreas has to make insulin to metabolize a high glycemic index food, your liver at the same time is making something called IGF, or insulin-like growth factor. And like I say, that's one of the strongest tumor promoters. It activates numerous tumor-promoting genes.
In order to prevent the deadly 5, diabetes, cancer, heart disease, obesity, and premature aging, Gaynor created what he calls the Gene Therapy Plan, a diet of healthy foods and supplements that turn good genes on and bad ones off. Gaynor prescribes an easy-to-remember macro rule of thirds, where a third of your calories come from protein, such as eggs, lean meat, and raw vegetables. He says raw vegetables actually contain loads of protein. Another third of the diet should come from healthy fats like deep-water fresh fish, flax and chia seeds, and olive and coconut oils. The last third of your calories should come from healthy carbohydrates like spelt, barley, nuts, and fruits. Such a diet can help control all kinds of diseases.
Heart disease, we used to think it was caused just by high cholesterol. We know that that is no longer true. It's mainly caused by inflammation, damaging the blood vessel walls, and damaging the worst types of cholesterol, making them more sticky. Two of the best foods you can do to prevent heart disease: chia seeds. Chia seeds are anti-inflammatory, loaded with omega-3s, loaded with fiber. In fact, they have 8 more omega-3s than salmon. And you can add chia seeds to oatmeal, to cereal. They don't have to be ground first, or your favorite smoothie. And then turmeric. Turmeric is what gives curry its yellow color. You can buy turmeric root in an Indian market. Just put it in some hot water for about 3 minutes. Make a great cup of turmeric tea. You can use the powder for smoothies or for cooking meat, chicken, or rice.
But just how far does Gaynor's advice go? How quickly can it change our genetic destiny? If we can change the expression of our genes and prevent disease just by eating certain foods, was Angelina Jolie wrong to get a double mastectomy and have her ovaries removed?
If you look at Angelina Jolie, I think her decision was correct for her. But the BRCA gene, the BRCA gene, that's a tumor suppressor gene involved in DNA repair. If you look at all the breast cancer in this country, only 5 to 8% is related to genetic inheritance of a gene like that, which means 90 to 95% is not related to that. It's related to the environment.
Gaynor says Jolie is in the 5% of the population that's inherited the mutated BRCA gene, which puts her at an 86% increased risk of breast and ovarian cancer. However, he says the majority of people can prevent the deadly 5 just by what they eat.
People don't realize yet this science is so new, and they've become so frustrated by diets that they've tried in the past, and for good reason. They may have tried this diet or that, maybe lost weight temporarily, ended up gaining back more weight, or the diet may not have worked at all. Mine is the first diet and lifestyle plan that's really directed at the DNA, at the level of gene expression, which is the most fundamental level of your health.
Up until now, the goal of modern medicine has been to treat disease once symptoms develop. Only recently have doctors begun to think in terms of prevention and to look for disease at its source, in the genes that determine who we are and what we become. You can learn more by visiting the website genechanger.com or through a link on our website, radiohealthjournal.net. All of our shows are available on iTunes and Stitcher. Our writer-producer this week is Polly Hansen. Our production directors are Sean Waldron and Nick Hofstra. I'm Nancy Benson.
Gary, why aren't you outside enjoying the party?
Hey, Michelle. It's this heartburn. When it hits, it really hits hard.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's it. I've had it. I'm gonna kick acid with Rolaids.
Unlike Tums, new Rolaids Advanced goes to work instantly for combined powerful relief of your worst symptoms of heartburn, bloating, and gas.
Wow, you're packed fast.
Yeah, I feel much better. Now this is a party.
Kick acid and gas with new Rolaids Advanced.
Geico RV presents Reflections from the Road.
After a few hours riding in my RV, I get in the zone. It's just me, the road, and the savings I get with Geico RV insurance. There's no more worries, no more 9-to-5 hustle. It's like I'm a caged animal set free. What's that? Is it a grizzly bear? No, it's just me switching to Geico RV insurance. Saving money, wild and free.
Geico, for your RV, trailer, or camper. See how much you could save.
When the leading antihistamine and Nasacort go nose-to-nose, Nasacort wins, stopping more of the chemical responses that can cause your nasal allergy symptoms. And when you stop more causes, you get 24-hour relief from sneezing, an itchy runny nose, even congestion. It's prescription-strength medicine available over the counter. Nasacort Allergy 24-hour. Stops more of what makes you miserable. Use as directed.